And we now do have Councilman Dino Bonanno from Jefferson Parish on the line with us. First of all, Councilman, thank you for joining us. And we're talking about, thousands of power outages now, and the wind is not all that bad compared to what we're going to see later on.
No, not in Upper Jefferson, but right now we're monitoring our weather stations. And on Grand Isle, we've had gusts so far as high as 129 miles an hour. But right now, looking at it, it's sustained in the 90s, and that's what's coming our way.
Yeah. And what's your biggest concern for your constituents in Jefferson Parish? Because you guys are west of the city. You guys are a little closer to the to what'll be the eye of the storm. Your winds and rain could be a little stronger than we see here in the city.
Yes, certainly. I mean, those areas inside the levee protection system are going to be fine as when it comes to storm surge. Obviously, those ones outside of the levee system are an area of big concern, but high winds, we're going to have a lot of down power lines, a lot of damage. So we've had a lot, I would gather to say that at least 50% of our citizens stayed. So we're going to have a lot of people trapped in their homes without power.
Yeah. Well, and the other concern you have, too, is the same one we do here in Orleans Parish. If we get tons and tons of rain, there's only so much we can take in a certain amount of time.
Well, fortunately, all of our pumps, with the exception of one, are operational. All of our pump stations are fully manned at this time. And post Katrina, we built safe rooms that we can actually put our people in when the winds get bad, and they can continue to operate the pumps electronically from inside the safe room. So we're hopefully can minimize the amount of water that remains in our streets.
Yeah, and that's all good. I mean, it's a great system you guys have over there. However, if you get 4 or 5 inches in a couple of hours, I mean, how much can you deal with?
No, so our pumping capacity is 1 inch an hour the first hour and 1/2 inch an hour thereafter. So obviously you're right. If we get 4 or 5 inches in a very short period of time, there's always that threat of flooding.
And even if it accumulates over, say, a 5 or 10 or even 24-hour period, and we get the kind of rain that the meteorologists are projecting, I mean, it could be real trouble.
It absolutely could. And that's why we're working hard to try to minimize the potential for that. But Mother Nature is not something you can control. So that is always a real possibility in these type of events, that you could have those rain bands that we call train right over top of one area and build up water in the streets beyond what we're able to pump, and may threaten people's homes.
And now, what are you telling your residents in Jefferson who did stay and may come to regret it later? If there is an emergency, hospitals are overloaded right now. It'd be hard for emergency personnel to get out in the middle of a storm. I mean, it is tough.
No, so if you decide to stay in a storm like that, there's going to be a period of time when winds reach 50 miles an hour sustained, that emergency response and response to any emergency call, whether it's fire, police, EMS, probably won't happen again till those winds fall below 50 miles an hour, because you're going to get a fireman or a policeman killed by flying debris or floodwater trying to get to those individuals.
And what about hospitals? How are hospitals in Jefferson right now? I know a lot of them are at or near capacity right now.
Certainly, with the COVID issue going on, a lot of our hospitals, as you said, are full. And so, we're going to have to manage that process as it comes. And so the hospitals are going to have to prioritize, what victims come in and how critical their conditions are and who gets treated first. And
you guys feel like you've been pretty prepared for this?
Yeah, ever since Katrina, we spent a lot of time fortifying our systems and hardening them and putting duplicate systems in place for communications, et cetera. So we're better prepared now than we ever have been, and our levees are better now than they ever been. So, we're very confident that our levee systems are going to protect us in this event, and we're hopeful that all our duplicate systems will keep us up and running.
Yeah, and the thing we're most worried about, because the storm surge is not going to affect the South Shore as much as it did in, say, a Katrina. The levee system is 100 times better than it was then. The big problem is going to be wind and rain, and it's going to be plenty of it.
That's absolutely right. Wind and rain, and we do have a significant amount of homes outside the levee system in Lower Jefferson, and that's where we're most fearful that people are going to be at risk.
Yeah, and especially if it keeps on the track it's talking about, or even goes a little bit to the east, I mean, it could be devastating in some of the places. I mean, Grand Isle, Lafitte, places like that are outside the hurricane protection system.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're actually on the east side of the storm, which is always the wettest side, and the one that has the greatest winds. So when it comes ashore, which we'll be doing shortly, we're going to be subjected to the worst conditions that this storm has.
And how many people evacuated from Lower Jefferson? Do you have any figures on that?
Most of the people left Grand Isle. There are a couple dozen people there. We have our firemen on the island that we're in constant communication with. And then in the Lafitte Crown Point area, you still have a significant amount of people there. We don't have an exact count, but I'm sure there are upwards of 500 to 1,000 people outside the levee system.
All right, Dino, thank you very much. We appreciate that. And, we're all hoping for the best in this one.
Yes, sir. Thank you.